Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Builds and Barry's Amusements in Minecraft. In today's episode, we're going to be solely building the ghost train. If you're enjoying this series, please subscribe. So with that out of the way, we're going to begin with the whole ghost train. So starting with the section that I left out in yesterday's episode, I forgot to add in the magic selfie mirror, which I'm just adding in now quickly. Now I'm beginning the ghost train station. In yesterday's episode, I forgot to mention something about the ghost train facade. It used to actually have an animatronic on it. I think it was an animatronic zombie. When it was removed around 2013-2014, there was a little section that stuck out that still remained with the original ghost train facade until 2018, and that was when the whole thing was refurbished. So now I'm beginning with the back section, and in this back section there are some windows, and those have the original ghost train artwork. That's only one of the two things that are from the original ghost train that are still inside, with the other being that horrible gorilla thing that's halfway through the ride. Now these windows were a little bit of a struggle at first because I didn't know how they went, but then I found it was two windows on the outer section and one that's in the middle, that's the largest, so it says please keep your arms and legs in the car at all times. So in the end, I'm pretty pleased with how it looks. Now I'm just adding in the doors that are on the windows. Now off camera, I had to change the back wall because it turned out I had built it one block further than it should be. So after this clip was recorded, I went back and fixed it. Now I'm just adding in the section that says don't forget to smile for the camera. Now I think the camera is located either between the witch and the gorilla or in between the Grim Reaper and the werewolf. Now in a moment we're going to begin with the interior of the ghost train. This was very hard and took a while to do. That's why I didn't upload yesterday, as well as I was very busy yesterday. But anyways, we're beginning with the first wee hallway. Nothing really happens in this except you go forward and then the lights suddenly go out. Now this is the first section of the ghost train. This is in 3 sections, which I like to call the haunted house section, the graveyard section, and the big dungeon section. Now the thing that took me the longest with this ghost train is first of all finding how to do the effects, and second of all finding out what the layout is, but I think I found it out now. It's basically 2 switchback turns, forwards, past the big hungry guy, then into a little graveyard before going up and then doing a big turn, and that's where one of the fire exits is, then going forward, entering the dungeon section, then doing a few more swigglies before coming back to the station. But now moving on to the first scene that has an animatronic, and this one is just a simple skeleton that goes up and makes this horrible like grunting noise. But I missed the original noise it made, which was like this woo woo noise. The noise was actually so iconic it actually made it into that BT advert. Now you might have noticed in the original ghost train for some reason there's cages behind a lot of the animatronics. But according to Parklife and a few other accounts, it seems like the reason those are there is just because people keep sticking their hands out and touching the animatronics. But now a lot of those cages have been removed, and the ones that still are there are now really well hidden or are part of theming. Now, the biggest complaint about the original ghost train was the fact that most of the ride was in pitch darkness. There was legit no storyline to it. You would just go through pitch darkness. Heck, you could even see the fire exit sign because all the walls were painted black. But now moving on to the dinner guy scene, this was like it was like this big fat guy who had like this knife and fork and would like come eat with me before doing a big turn. This was very easy to do, as all I did was get an orange stand, dress it up as a skeleton, and put a piece of cake down. And of course, build the table. Now I have never been on the new ghost train, but I have been on the old one, and let me tell you, I did not enjoy the ghost train at all. I had my ears covered for the entire ride because I did not like how noisy it was. Now next to the dinner guy, I'm just gonna call it for that, there's like this thing that makes the iconic ow sound. I'm not too sure what it is, but if anybody does know, leave a comment down below. So there we are, have dinner guy enjoying his nice wee piece of cake. I know there isn't cake in the real one, but I think it'll do. But now we're moving on to the bedroom scene with the creepy doll thing that comes out and does this little giggle noise. This was probably the easiest thing to build on the ghost train. All I did was build a small crib, which was this made out of iron bars, as well as add just a white thing on top that's supposed to symbolize the doll. I know it's not much, but it'll do because of the limitations of Minecraft. I also added a picture of a river being made, which is I know is completely unsuitable for a child's bedroom, but this is a ghost train. It's supposed to be creepy. Now, moving on to the next section of the ride, which is the graveyard section. Originally, in the original one, this was just pitch darkness like the rest of the ride, but originally I did think it was a graveyard. Now, in this scene, there are two animatronics. One is a grave of a guy putting his hands out, and the other one is a Grim Reaper that's at the very back, but originally I placed it at the very front because I'd built it incorrectly. Now, on my recreation of the ghost train, this is probably the most well lit part of the ride, apart from a section where I did build an actual animatronic. So there was a little bit of light down below because it was right along the wall that was right against the road. So as you can see, I just built a very simple graveyard, just a few stone blocks that are supposed to represent graves. Sadly, I could not build a cross because of how small the room was. So now after this big graveyard room, you continue with the graveyard, go up this long dark tunnel, and I think this is where you get your picture taken. But straight ahead afterwards there's this big werewolf which I add in a moment. When I first looked at the POV I could hardly tell it was a werewolf though. But this is perhaps the darkest part of the ride, these two hallways which have the fire exit door on it. Now, I know my recreation of the Ghost Train animatronics isn't the best, but I think it'll just do because of the blockiness of Minecraft. So now we're moving on to the witch scene, which basically features a witch that comes out of a cauldron and does this famous witch laugh. Very easy to do indeed. Thinking about it now, I think I should now change that into an animatronic. That because later on I do make another working animatronic, so I think it won't be too hard to make that into a working animatronic. The only problem is there isn't the proper clothes for it, so I might not. But now we're moving down the hallway that leads to the castle section, and then the first thing then you see is the horrible gorilla thing. It's basically this huge gorilla on a wall with red eyes, but now it's been changed to yellow eyes with this mouth that basically has cogwork in it. It's not very nice to look at, it's actually terrifying. Later, I do change the right hand side of the hallway, to bricks because basically that's how close I had to get the wall to, and it was far too hard to make like the wall go out because then the whole scale would have been ruined. But that wraps up the time lapse from yesterday. Now we're moving on to the one that's from the next day, which I filmed today. But now we're beginning the full castle section, also a dungeon, and we're beginning with the mummy that comes out. I don't know what castles and mummies have to do with each other, but it's there. I do actually make the mummy work because it literally comes out. So basically I used a piston and then put an armor stand on it. I'm also building the vampire coffin that basically screams, I want your blood. But on the original Ghost Train, I think this was the maddest part of it because all you could hear was screaming all around you. It was so horrible to listen to, and it got extremely annoying after a while. But I still think that Ghost Train refurbishment did wondrous things to Barry's and the Ghost Train. It turned a small little ghost train in a seaside park into quite a really well themed experience. Not the best themed in the world, but I think the theming's still pretty decent for Northern Irish standards. Such a shame it's been left to rot. I'm not too sure what they're going to do with those props. In some ways, I want them to sell them off like what Pleasure Island in Cleethorpes did, where they did a massive auction for all the items that were in the rides. They sold anything from signs to big rides, including props that were inside the Tinkaboo water ride. But now I'm building the cupboard that has like this Frankenstein monster in it. I'm not too sure what the monster is in there, but it has like the cogwork thing that the gorilla thing has, and has like this Frankenstein monster come out and like do this like grunt thing or whatever zombie things do. For those wondering, I will not be doing a Minecraft recreation of the Ghost Train POV yet. I'll be waiting until I finish the entire park before I do POVs and a massive tour of the entire park. So now we're moving on to the final turn, and then this scene here we have let me remember what it is. I think it's like this prisoner behind a thing. This was really easy to do, as all I did was get an armor stand, put it behind bars, and then dress it up as Steve. This is where the exit doors are that say "see you on the other side," and when most of the time you see that, and when I saw it, I was so relieved. But that concludes today's Ghost Train time lapse. So that concludes episode 5 of Building Barry's Amusements in Minecraft. In tomorrow's episode, we're going to be building the dodgems as well as begin the arcade. If you're enjoying this series, please subscribe. That is the end of today's episode. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.